At noon on a winter day in 1919, a wave taller than a house rolled through Boston at 35 miles an hour. It wasn't water or molasses. And it's the reason nobody gets to build over your head without proving the math. Boston's North End, 4 years earlier. The Purity Distilling Company needs somewhere to store molasses, the raw material for industrial alcohol. Their answer, a steel tank 50 feet tall and 90 feet across, in the middle of a crowded immigrant neighborhood. The man put in charge of building it is Arthur Gell, a treasurer, a money man. He has no engineering training, he cannot read a blueprint, and at no point does he consult anyone who can. A ship full of molasses is already steaming toward Boston, so the tank goes up in a rush. The proper safety test, filling it with water first, takes time. Gel runs in 6 inches. From the very first fill, the tank groans and weeps molasses at every seam. Neighborhood kids bring cans to collect the drips. The company's fix? They paint the tank brown, so the leaks are harder to see. Isaac Gonzalez hears it rumbling from inside. He's so afraid of the tank that he checks on it at night, on his own time. He warns his bosses again and again. His warnings change nothing. January 15, 1919. 2 days earlier, a fresh shipment of warm molasses topped the tank nearly to the brim, 2.3 million gallons. The temperature has jumped from near zero to over 40 degrees. Inside the tank, the pressure is climbing. At about 12:30, the rivets begin to pop. Witnesses said it sounded like machine gun fire. Then the steel tears open, and 26 million pounds of molasses hits the street as a wave 25 feet. Molasses in January is not slow. The wave moves at 35 miles an hour, faster than anyone can run. It snaps the steel legs of an elevated railway, shoves buildings off their foundations, and crushes a firehouse with the crew inside. 21 people are killed. Laborers eating lunch, a firefighter, 2 10-year-old children. About 150 more are injured. Sailors from a training ship anchored nearby wade in to pull survivors out of the flood. The company's explanation? Sabotage. A bomb, they said, planted by anarchists. Not the tank. Never the tank. The families of the dead took them to court. 119 claims folded into one landmark case. The hearings ran nearly 6 years. 1,000 witnesses. Tens of thousands of pages. And engineer after engineer testified to the same thing. The walls were too thin, the steel too brittle, Marge, the safety roughly half of what good practice commanded. In 1925 came the ruling. There was no bomb. The tank had simply been built wrong. The company paid $628,000, one of the largest damage settlements of its time. But the case exposed something bigger. None of it had been illegal. To hang 2.3 million gallons over a crowded street, the company had only needed a routine permit. Boston never asked to see the math, because no law said it had to. So Boston changed the rule. Building permits would now require plans signed and sealed by a registered engineer, with the calculations filed, checked, and kept on record. State by state, the idea spread. If you want to build something that could kill people, a licensed engineer must stake their name and their license on the math. Today, every U.S. state requires it. That is what the stamp on a blueprint means. The water tower over your town, the fuel depot by the harbor, the apartment block you live in, behind each one is a person who is legally answerable for the numbers. You'll never see the paperwork, and that's the point. Permit reviews and licensed engineers exist so that the steel over your head is never again somebody's guess. In Boston's North End, they say that on hot summer days you can still catch a faint smell of molasses. One disaster later, Nobody builds without proving the math. Every safety rule has a story. One disaster later, it protects you.